guys. Much appreciated. And I'm so happy you said yes to joining us today, Tommy. I'm glad to see a full room. I'm sure many of us are excited to hear what's happening. But for those of you that don't know, Tommy is the former Minister of Education and Science. I'm not sure what it is in English, something like that. But is also, as Irja said, the founder of 2 tech companies. And it's really rare in any of the Nordic countries to have anybody who's done 2 successful exits in the tech world join politics and actually go into that world and try to make the world better. So really appreciate it, and thanks for joining. And I think perhaps the opening question is, and I should mention for those who don't know, Tommy also left again. So I guess the question here is there a role for entrepreneurs in politics?
Yes, is this on?
Working on it. There may or may not be a role. We don't know.
So, is it on now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, cool. Now I really look like a politician, don't understand tech anymore because I've been in politics. So thanks, and great seeing you again, and thanks for inviting me. So I was a business angel for, entrepreneur for active entrepreneur for 10 years, and then a business angel for 3 years. And then suddenly I got this call from the Prime Minister whether I want to join the government minister on research and higher education and science. And it was a fantastic journey, and always felt like, there is something for entrepreneurs to do in politics. And actually, I learned that there is a lot. There's a political world that is very, receptive to listen to entrepreneurs, because you guys are kind of, we have seen enough out there to know that entrepreneurs, we need the entrepreneurs to change the world. And even politicians know that we need to change the world, right? So I definitely saw there was, there was a quite, positive kind of reception to entrepreneurs into politics, and I also feel that in politics. And then, of course, I have to say why I then left again, right? So I was there for a bit more than a year as a minister, and then in opposition for 2 years, and speak on climate for the biggest opposition party in Denmark. But it just felt like, the ones then creating, because that's the kind of the red line in my career, what I've done from McKinsey to the startups to whatever I've done, also in politics, has been to change the world, right? Create transformation. And I just feel where we are right now, then the transformation is created by you guys in this world, not in politics. Politics is almost like following and then creating the framework for that transformation. I'm not sure I agree that it has to be like that, but that's how it is. And that's actually the essence of why I'm leaving and then trying to come back to this world. If you guys want me back in this world, I haven't figured that out yet. But at least that's what I'm trying to put myself out there and say, hey, I tried that. And to your question, whether there's a role, there's definitely an obligation for entrepreneurs to engage in politics. There's an obligation for everyone to engage in politics. There's a lot of people criticizing me for leaving politics after 3 years and 3 months. Fuck you, you spent 3 years in politics, and then you criticize me, right? No, I bet, honestly, we need more people to come into politics from the outside. We cannot just have politicians recruit from their own circles as they're doing in most democracies. Yeah. So we need to change that, and one way to change that is to have guys like you, because you have a different mindset. But you have an obligation to then engage in society, not only in your own company, but also outside. And you're doing that already, because you engage in this, you engage in the ecosystem. But there's a bigger ecosystem that entrepreneurs in the Nordic countries is getting a more and more important part of the society. It's not just a small corner of society, it's a very big part of the society. And therefore we also have, as entrepreneurs, an obligation to then try to create a better society for the rest. And then politicians need the mindset of entrepreneurs, especially at this point in time, where we need to make a massive transformation on many dimensions, on nature, on climate, on tech, over the next 10 years. And the mindset of a typical politician and a clerk and working in the ministry is not there, and they need people from the outside. Yeah. And I didn't change as much as I hoped I could do in those 3 years. But entrepreneurs is the test, is the 1,000 tests or 1,000 attempts, and then one day we'll succeed. So you please follow, don't follow my way out of politics, but follow me in to try to go into politics. And I'll applaud you and I will help you, but there is a role for entrepreneurs to go into politics.
You can tell
also Torsten.
He missed the startup stage, obviously, This was like my first 5 questions in one
Yeah,
sentence.
sorry.
That's amazing. But I guess the follow-up here, I like what you're talking about, that it's not just about the startup world, that there is a bigger world outside, and that we have as entrepreneurs an obligation to actually also interact with that world and perhaps make that world better. So maybe tell us a little more about that. This event here is all about startups. It's all about how to succeed with startups, how to become a unicorn, how to grow and all this stuff. But are we doing it right? I mean, what is your advice of how can we help make that world better from an entrepreneur's point of view, except for going into politics? I understand that. But like generally speaking,
but I think in general, this, and I think that also what attracts a lot of people to this world, and many of you might not be running a startup. You are working in the public sector. You're working in a big corporation. But so for me, startup is a mindset on how you truly believe that you can change things and you can create stuff where there's nothing today.
Yeah.
And that's a special mindset, and there's only it's a certain group in society that has that mindset, and they often end up creating companies because it's a fantastic way of doing it, and it might also create some wealth for you and your family, right? So there's also that dimension. But to me, that is a mindset, and that mindset can be used in various different parts of society. There's a new book it's only in Danish so far, called Entreprenørstaten, so the entrepreneur state, where Sigge Winther wrote a book, interviewed a lot of people inside politics, and then tried to come up with a recipe on how could we actually get that entrepreneur mindset into politics. It has a long way, having been in politics for 3 years, but we need to keep on trying to get that in. So there's definitely a mindset. So startup doesn't have to be closed around creating startup. It's also a mentality thing that you can use in different sectors.
Yeah, I like that very much. And I think maybe let's broaden for a moment to the Nordic region. I think, these 8 countries are all very similar. How would you describe the opportunity that we have today in these countries? I mean, we have a very high cost of labor, but we have amazing research and science coming out of our labs. Are we doing that right?
No, not at all. No, we are not, because I feel there's two, so basically, maybe if we look, over the last 20 years, we have struggled a lot with, at least in the Danish scene, also, in the other Nordic countries, but I know the Danish scene best. We've been struggling with the kind of classic, we need access to talent, we need access to capital. We have that now. There's, plenty of capital out there, and there's a lot of talent floating through the startup world. But in a world where we were struggling maybe on the talent and the capital and regulation, then it was kind of okay then to work on products that were a bit easier, right? That didn't have a lot of technical barriers. So we worked I only created low-tech companies, right? Internet companies where they didn't have any technical barriers. Of course it was technically possible to create Podio or create ZYB or to create Pecan, but it was there was a commercial risk only.
Right.
But given now that we have built this talent base, we have a lot of experiences in ecosystem to build startups, there's a lot of capital coming. I think entrepreneurs also have an obligation then to say, okay, should I go and then create some products that is a bit harder to create? So go into deep tech, go out there, not only enough. We have had enough, apps to deliver a faster pizza to you. Maybe we now need, instead of pizzas, to people to go out and find new proteins instead of new pizzas. To go into deep tech, because the journey is, I feel a bit, it feels, from the outside when you look at, and you're used to create software companies, then the deep tech world, you go into DTU or Aarhus University or Copenhagen University, feels like, whoa, I don't understand anything. But guess what? A lot of people that went into tech 20 years ago, that was a lot of complicated, required a lot of capital to acquire your service. Yeah. That also looked complicated, but yet a lot of people with no knowledge in these areas came into tech, and we could do the same with kind of deep tech, with chemicals or food, agriculture, energy transition. So there's a role there, and we cannot just keep on creating the same kind of, sorry to provoke some here, and this is also a provocation to myself, light tech company. We need to go the hard route as well, because the capital is there, the talent is there, and in order to create the world, we also need to create some companies that are changing some of the fundamentals in what we're doing, and that require deep tech. And the tech is there. There's a research world out there with a lot of knowledge. but they just don't have your guys' mindset in terms of how to get it out and believe that they can actually create companies based on it and create real products. Many of these people I've met in academia, they want to do this, but they also too much woven into the world of write another article in Nature. Then it provoked that world as well. So now I don't have any friends anymore. And so if we can connect this world of very kind of savvy people believing that we do something fast, and then with that deep tech world, that's what I think will move the needle. And we need to move the needle in order to save the planet, because we have a short amount of time. And I know most of you believe this. So act on this and do something, and don't get too tied up to just yet another software company. Something a bit tougher. You guys need to create that.
I think that's very motivational advice for sure. I think even if we all went out and did deep tech companies, and a lot of people here are, and I think that's really cool over the past couple of years, you're absolutely right, there's capital. It is happening. But I think if you really need to succeed with something that is transformational, you're also going to need the rest of society with you. And I often hear the criticism of, well, politicians don't understand tech, or they don't understand science. I was asking a member of the sort of central administration about like which politician should I go to about asking about what is the role of tech in society, and he said, well, Tommy, obviously. And then he kind of just looked at me for a while, and no one could think of any other relevant people to talk. And maybe it's unfair, but I think Is there such a gap in politics, and is that perhaps more important than us going and creating these companies?
No, but I think there's a gap, because basically in politics, one of the big difference between, you can actually say politics and maybe also big companies, is that in politics you kind of, and it's sad that is the way it is, but politicians today, they kind of ask for permission. So they go out and ask the population for permission to get a mandate. That's also a bit, why radical innovation doesn't always happen in big companies, because there you also need to ask for permission, right? So no hotel chain would ever have created Airbnb, because imagine the guys come and ask the legal department, can I have strangers live in my apartment while I'm gone? No, you idiot. There's just a number of lawsuits waiting to happen. Yeah. And yet someone created it and showed that the world is ready for that. So these new things need to come from someone that didn't need to ask for permission. And so unfortunately we have a political world that lacks a bit the courage to do something without having the mandate, but show the way.
Right.
And I think entrepreneurs then need to be able to show the way. So yes, we have a gap in terms of imagine a different world, and some need to go into politics and then translate that. But a lot of you guys also need to then create that world and then show to the political world that it's possible. Yeah. And do that not only in, we do that in education with a lot of the edtech companies. We need to do that on climate. We need to do that on nature, and then show, guys, it's possible. Right. Just get out of our way, because that's also what the political world. Because that's basically also two ways of thinking politics, right? One way of thinking politics is that the politicians and the state need to be involved in everything. That's not what I believe. I believe a bit like we need to create the framework, and therefore we also need a strong voice from the entrepreneurial world to the politician, not only here in Denmark, but in all of the world. Put a tax on carbon. Put a tax on carbon, because that's the only way to create level playing field between new technologies, new green technologies that will be more expensive than the old black technologies. So the only way to create level playing field, put a tax on carbon. And that's the way, and that's the best thing that the political world, I believe, can do for entrepreneurs, right? So it's also wrong. I also feel a bit that sometimes as an entrepreneur in politics, I also try to use that platform a bit to then talk about all the issues that Danish entrepreneurs have. And sometimes I'm looking at Danish entrepreneurs and say, what issues? Come on, guys. It's a country where it's very, very easy to create a company. There's definitely talent available. There's also capital available. So yes, we can we can make it sound like there's a lot of issues, and there's definitely a lot of things that could be easier.
Right.
But you can also, you have a license to operate that is quite wide, and should also then use that to then show, hey, this is how you do it, instead of just talking about it.
I think absolutely, and I think if any of you either have any if you disagree that this is a country that's easy to start companies in, or if you have any other comments, by all means use the Slido app, and we'll see. We have like so limited time; we have like 10 minutes left, but I'll see what I can do.
Of course, just one thing that is very and now I will sound political. The government has a proposal on increasing the tax on so capital gains tax. That's toxic for the for the entrepreneurial environment because it's put a higher price on capital.
Right.
And will then makes it worse. And now talking about the Danish ecosystem, makes it harder for the Danish ecosystem to compete with the Swedish ecosystem and the Finnish ecosystem and the Norwegian ecosystem and the German ecosystem because they have a lower price on capital. So again, that's an example of political, politics also matter to entrepreneurs and the companies they're trying, and yet another argument for you guys also to get involved in politics. And there are many ways to get involved in politics, not only running for a seat in parliament or a local county. There's other ways to be involved in politics, but it's not a world you can just shy away from and say, that's none of my business. I once believed that it was more important who was the CEO of Apple than who's the prime minister in Denmark. I have kids now, and seeing companies and how dependent they are on this, that's not true, right? It matters, the political leaders we have. So,
right. No, I think that's very true. I think I'm not completely letting you off on this idea that, hey, you guys just go and create these companies. It's what we need. Because I think maybe there's also a little bit too singular a focus of startup as the vehicle to create this innovation. Should we, for instance, have a national CTO that has the role of making sure the government and country is open for entrepreneurs and open for new technologies and is advising politicians the same way that our health authorities have advised politicians during COVID? Is there a more serious role for government here to promote this?
Yes, definitely. I think if the T in CTO then stands for technology broadly, so it's not only like
absolutely not software.
Not software,
technology
but technology broadly.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's more like it's almost like a science officer, right? A science advisor.
Yeah.
We definitely need that. The respect, and I've seen that the respect in the science world is too separated, and we definitely need more respect for research and science in the political system. And one way to do that, and that it's working, they have it in the other countries have it, right? They have it in UK, they have something similar in US, in the White House. I think it gives a platform to someone that has a bit of almost like the Minister of Finance that goes across, because this is relevant. You could say climate and nature, technology and money are something that runs across all the ministries, right? All the areas. And it would be natural to have, it could be a science officer advising as a special advisor to the prime minister to elevate it to that level, or it could be like a tech or science or minister.
Right.
And we don't have that. I tried to convince the prime minister back when I was a minister whether I could add technology to my title, and that was something complicated with the constitution, so I could not just do that.
Right.
But I still tried to. Sometimes I was referred to tech minister. So yes, I believe that we should have that to translate again the entrepreneurial mindset and the possibilities of the world into the political world. And if we then take the digitalization as one thing that we used to be very good at in Denmark, and that's also why we have come quite well through the COVID crisis, because we had NemID. I think that's the same for most Nordic countries. But we then also need to look into a future where digitalization, combined with climate tech and all of that, how to broaden that out in society, and not only believe just because you have a web form, then we have digitalized society, right? There's a lot of stuff that we are still lacking behind, and it feels a bit sometimes that we're resting on our laurels, believing that we are well off because we digitalized the Danish society and everyone can use NemID. Which is not that easy, but everyone can do it, and now we don't need that. So I think having a CTO role would definitely make sense in order to stay focused on that. The government did establish this new partnership for digitalization, I think it's called, with Jim Hagemann Snabe as the head, and that's I fully welcome that, and maybe Jim Hagemann Snabe, imagine after this elevate him to become the CTO of Denmark, right? That would
let's ask him.
Yeah, let's ask him. If someone know Jim out there, then please ask him if he will become the CTO of Denmark.
Hereby open job offer, Jim, if you're interested. No, so I have a question on Slido, which is a little bit about what's next for you, and the question is, how does your political experience now inform what you do next? Because you used to be the first successful entrepreneur going into politics, but you are now the first successful politician going, I guess, into entrepreneurship. Or what's happening? What's next?
Honestly, I'm trying to figure that out now. So this is not to try to, say, it's a secret. It's not a secret. I have no clue. So there's no secrets here. I'm just, I'm literally trying to figure this out. Politics is very, very intense. So I had to I decided to leave because I know that was not the thing for me. But I didn't do that because I know exactly what to do. I know there's definitely there is something, or there is definitely a role for me with the experience from politics, and then try to help translate what you guys need. So I can definitely play a role there. I think I can play a role with, as you also hinted to before, startup world cannot be just isolated. It needs to work much better together with governmental institutions, what have you. But one specific area that I have seen in politics, and that comes back to the year and so I got as a minister for higher education and research. There is a world. Now we come back to my point from previous, right? Connecting the deep tech world at some of our fantastic universities in the Nordic to the entrepreneurial world that needs to that believes that we can act super quick. Get these two groups to talk. I think I have a role to play there. And I dream about, helping out some of the entrepreneurs that wants to take a technological risk, that needs maybe more money, longer time, a different approach than we're used to with kind of classic internet and software companies. I don't have the experience to it, but I'm a fast learner, so I hope I can, go into that world.
Amazing.
That's the kind of the most specific way, and probably as an investor. And I'm not sure whether it's the right. I tried 3 years as an angel investor. My joke is that angel investor is just a better word for an unemployed entrepreneur, which it does feel like sometimes, because you're kind of looking for your next dream. You are kind of in it, but you're not really in it. And once you have made your investment and you sit at the board meeting, at least the way I worked with some of the companies back then I feel a bit like the lonely rider that didn't have a team. And then suddenly I landed as a minister and had this, 600 people working for me every day and pretty much doing everything I said. And now I'm doing about building a VC firm with 600 people. No, I'm not. Really bad jokes.
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to definitely go back. Suddenly, probably at trying to figure out whether I fit in some of the more formal roles of investing. And I'm not, I don't know that yet. And then trying to connect to that deep tech world.
I love it. So we are almost out of time here, but I guess the takeaways are: A, go into politics. B,
go out of politics.
Go out of politics, build something amazing, build something that actually changes the world. And C, go pitch Tommy as an investor, an advisor, and hopefully to help you make this happen. Tommy, I want to personally ask you to take your time to do this. It's been an inspiration to see you go in, and I'm sure it'll be an inspiration to see you go back out. And so I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for sitting in. Make sure to grab him afterwards before he gets to dash out of here. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Thank you. Great. Thanks.